Tika. This is going to be a quick tutorial showing you the different injection sites that you can use on your body for doing your hCG shots. Now just FYI, I'm not a medical professional, and all the information that I'm going to share with you is basically the research that I found for instructions when it comes to doing insulin shots for those who have diabetes, okay? So that's the research that I did to come up with this, and it's the information that I used for doing my own shots when I was on the diet, okay? So just want to make sure that I say that. It's always good to do your own research. So basically, the main point when you're doing an hCG shot is to inject it into your fat. And as you well know, there's lots of places on your body with fat, right? So there's actually a lot of locations that work well as long as there's a layer of fat under your skin for doing an injection. However, there are a few main areas that seem to be, best and that most people use. So I'm going to go over those. So the injection sites we're going to go over are your abdomen, the back of your arm, your thigh, your hip area, and your buttocks. And I'm going to actually show you exactly which part of those areas are safe to inject in from my research. Okay, so the most common place to do your hCG shots, and this is where I did my shots for most of my journey, is actually in your abdomen area. And the way that you base where you do your shot, there's actually a lot of area you have to choose from, and you can, move it around each day in that area. But basically they say with your belly button to stay 2 fingers away on all sides. So you would never do an injection in that area, 2 fingers away on each side from your belly button. And that's because it's a sensitive area, apparently, so you stay away from that. But outside of that, you can do, basically, you try to grab a handful of fat. I don't have as much as I used to, obviously, but I still have a little. But basically below your rib cage and above your hip bone, anywhere in there, all the way across on either side, you can grab, where if there is fat there, I'm gonna just show you guys. You can grab, a piece of fat. You can see mine right there, and that would be an area that you could use. So again, see up here, this is below my rib cage, so you could even go a little higher up. You can, usually a lot of us, at least women, have quite the belly when we start this diet, so there's usually plenty of fat in there. So you can use any of that on either side here, okay? Now that's going to be in general the place that most people are going to inject, just because it's like the simplest, and it seems to work well. And usually when you'll do it, you'll alternate sides each day, just to avoid injecting into one spot, too frequently. So you can do it like that. Now let's move on to injecting in your arm. So on your arm, it's going to be the back of your arm that you would inject into. If you kind of like imagine a line going down the center of your arm here, you would use the back side of that. And the reason from my research that you wouldn't want to use the front is because, typically this is more muscular and there's more blood vessels here. So that's what you would want to avoid. But here on the back of your arm, I'm going to go ahead and move my thing up. If you see, you can kind of grab a little piece of skin here, right? So now obviously if you're doing your own injection, you can't grab the fat and the skin and do an injection at the same time, right? So there's a couple things that you can do if you want to try doing an injection here, which I have done before. So one of the tips was to actually, if I had my chair a little lower, you would actually put your arm on a table, so that's high enough. I'm on a tall stool right now. And so you would put your arm on the edge of the table, and then you would roll your arm forward. And what that does is it kind of simulates as if you were holding it, holding the skin with your hand. So you can do that. And then, this isn't ready to go really, but here you can see an example needle, and then you would just go ahead and do your injection that way. So that's one way. Now the other thing you can do is actually just put up your leg, use your little leg as that. And again, you would put your arm on your leg, and then kind of, you know, press down, roll forward a little bit, and that kind of isolates and tightens that area in the back of your arm. And again, you can just stick your needle in like that, okay? So just to give you a little bit of feedback, well, I'll go into that later. Okay, so now the next spot that you can use for an injection location is your thigh. And so to find what the general safe space is to use, the instructions that I read were to put a hand over your hip area and a hand over your knee, and imagine a crease, like a pants crease, going down the center of your leg, and everything on the outside of that between your two hands would be a safe zone for doing an injection. So, you know, if you can see this whole area in here. Now, it was mentioned that even though we women tend to have quite a bit of fat and stuff you can grab on the inside of your thighs, it's not really a recommended place to do an injection because apparently there's a lot more blood vessels and a lot more nerve endings there. So it's not the best place is what they said. Now, to be honest, I actually did do a few injections there in the past on one of my rounds because I didn't know that. Nothing bad happened, but I just thought I'd mention it. Might as well stick with what's recommended and with what's, you know, known to be perfectly safe, right? So we're gonna stick to that outer area, and again, it's like you're just gonna be grabbing, which I still do have some fat over here. You're gonna be grabbing, you know, a section that has some fat on it, and any spot in here it can work fine for that. Now, the last two spots I want to mention are the rolls like above your hips and also your buttock area. So that's another spot just in the back here. You know, usually a lot of us can grab a good amount. So that's another spot that you can do an injection on either side. And then also your buttock area, that's kind of gonna be probably hard to reach for most of us. But I do think my last round that I did actually do a few injections there as close as I could reach. So it's probably more the side of my bottom. But you know, I did that and that worked fine for me too. So those are the locations that you have to choose from. Now, a couple other tips for people who are really nervous about the injections. And, you know, to be honest, I was actually one of those people. I made my husband, true story, I made my husband do my first few days of shots because I was that wimpy about it. And then I took over once I realized they really were painless. It was just my fear more than anything. So, but anyway, so, you know, that's coming from me. So I understand that some of you guys, you know, might feel that way too. But honestly, they really are painless, especially if you are going into your fat. But the other thing is, it was mentioned in my research that if you're just really, really freaking out, you could put an ice cube on the spot that you're going to inject, you know, for a minute. And what that does is it cools the skin and kind of numbs it a little bit. And that way it may possibly, you know, you might feel even less of a sensation. But like I said, honestly, if you really are injecting into your fat and not like just your skin or your muscle, it's really pretty painless. Now, I will say that as you get thinner, like I said, I think 4 of my rounds, I just injected in my abdomen with no problem. But, you know, all my fat obviously was going away in that area. And also I have a little excess skin in my belly because it was stretched from having extra fat there originally. So what I found was towards the end of my 4th round, or maybe in the middle of my 5th round, the injections actually did start hurting a little bit, and it kind of kept happening a couple times. And so I thought, I wonder if I'm getting a little scar tissue or if there's just not enough fat there anymore. Maybe not all that's left is skin. And so in that case, I thought maybe I should try changing my injection site. And when I did that, once again, it was totally painless and it was better. So if you have that problem, that might be something to consider. Now, the other thing is, usually when you do an injection, you would put an alcohol swab in that spot before you inject. Now, from what I researched, and again, this is gathered from, you know, people who are putting out information for diabetics who are doing insulin shots, they basically said that if you're doing this at home, and you know, you take a shower daily and you're not working in a barn with cow poop or something, that in general, you don't necessarily need to use an alcohol swab on your skin before you do your injection. The needles, of course, that come, you're only using one per day, and then you toss them. They are completely sterile, you know, so that's not something that you have to worry about. And they said typically a person's skin that showers every day, that has a regular desk job, their skin is going to be clean enough. So of course, just to be safe, you can do an alcohol swab, and I actually did for all my rounds because, you know, I don't have a medical background and I was, you know, a little nervous. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing anything risky. So if you do the alcohol swab on your skin before you do the injection, you're supposed to let the alcohol dry before you do the injection. And the reason for that is because it can actually kind of sting and burn a little if you do the injection while the alcohol is still wet on your skin. Okay, so just another little tidbit there. Now the last thing I want to talk about is rotating injection sites. So there's a couple things here. If you choose to start injecting in your abdomen, it's recommended to, like, you know, trade off sides from day to day. Now, there might be a reason to kind of stick with one general area, and that's because the research that I did, and again, this is based off of insulin, which of course hCG is not exactly the same, but I'm kind of applying the principle here, is that different injection sites absorb what you're injecting at different rates. So they found with insulin that when you inject in your abdomen, it seems to absorb the best. And you know, and then the other sites just may absorb differently from each other. So you know, with hCG, how the dosage is so important to not being hungry, right? So if you were moving your injection site around every day, like stomach, leg, arm, you know, hip, butt, stomach, it's possible that your body would be absorbing it differently based on that site. And so it's possible that you wouldn't have as consistent a feeling each day. So I'm just throwing that out there, that if you decide to go with your abdomen, maybe just stick with your abdomen, or if you decide to go with your outer thigh, stick with your outer thighs in general, you know, just to make sure you're getting consistency with the absorption. However, there is a time when you may want to try doing a different location. And I'm a good example of that. My final round, like I said, I not only was starting to have kind of pain injecting in my abdomen, but I was actually starting to get hungry. Now, oftentimes when you get hungry on hCG after you've been fine, it will indicate that you need to change your dose. And if you want to know more about that, I'll link to an article about that. However, what I was thinking at the time when this was happening, I was thinking, well, you know, maybe it's because I don't have enough fat there anymore, and so it's not absorbing as well into my body. And I actually did seem to find that to be true, both when I did my the back of my arm, my deltoid area, and my thigh, my upper thigh. I felt significantly better those following days when I changed the injection site, and I no longer felt that hunger anymore. And again, this was when I was, you know, starting to get fairly lean towards the end of my weight loss journey. So that's a time when you actually may want to consider, you know, changing up the location. So if you're having hunger, consider changing your injection site and consider changing your hCG dosage. Now, there's just a few quick little questions I want to answer, things that come up. One is about intramuscular shots. So the injection sites that I just showed you are for doing what are called sub-Q or SQ, which stands for subcutaneous injections, which is an injection under the skin into your fat. And today, that's pretty much what everyone uses for hCG shots. Now, in the original protocol that Dr. Simeons wrote, he gave his patients IM shots, which stands for intramuscular shots. This involved the needle being longer and actually going into the muscle. So the question comes up, is there a reason like that should you still do intramuscular shots? Is it less effective to do subcutaneous? So I'm not going to go into all the details in this video about it, but if you're wondering about that, I'm going to link you in the article that goes with this video to some feedback on that. I did a little bit of research on it that you can kind of read that research, but basically in a nutshell, it shows that injections done subcutaneously absorb just as well, if not better, is what the recent research shows, than intramuscular shots. So I think for this purposes, which is why everyone's doing subcutaneous these days. Additionally, the nice thing about it is that subcutaneous shots are, they're just really tiny. The needles are very short and they're also very narrow, so they're pretty much painless. So it's just something that's very easy to do in your own home on a, on a daily basis. So that's that one question, okay? So I hope that that was helpful to you guys. You can find me on Facebook, HCG Chica, Instagram, Pinterest, all HCG Chica, and if you peruse around, I also have a tutorial on how to actually do an injection. So I have a, you'll see that up close, how to do that, and also how to actually find your HCG dosage on the syringe. That might be another thing that you're confused about. So I will link to both of those tutorials in the article that goes with this video, okay? All right, you guys, take care, bye.